Alright, so in this video, we're going to learn how to write a recursive function to compute the factorial of a number. So before we start off with the conversion process, we should already know that the factorial of a number is the products of all numbers which are greater than or which are less than or equal to that number till 1. Meaning, if our number is 5, then the factorial of that number will be 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Alright. So for doing this, we already have an iterative function written in place. So I'm not going to make you understand how this function actually works. You should already be able to write this sort of an iterative function. But in this video, we're going to cover how to convert this to a recursive form. Right? Okay. Let's start off by creating a class. Alright. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to import the scanner class to take input. Scanner class factorial, let's say. Now, because our recursive function is 1, which return our iterative function is 1, which returns an integer. Therefore, our recursive function will also return an integer. Now I'm going to name this function rect factorial. Alright, and it's now for the parameters. Now to identify the parameters, we need to find out the variables which have been written before the loop and as well as the loop variable. So num, fact are the variables that have been written before the loop, and I is the loop variable, and these will constitute the parameter of a function, the function. So int fact I. Right? Now, to identify the base condition, we must first note that I greater than equals 1 is our test condition, and the inverted condition for this would be I less than 1. Alright? So that will be a base condition. So let's first write the base case. If I is less than 1. So the base case forms everything that is after the loop, and that is return fact. And this is what we're going to write inside of the base case, return fact. Now, coming to the recursive piece. So if you notice from the algorithm, you would see that I had stated that the recursive case would contain statements, including statements which are found in the body of the loop, including the update expression, right? So inside the body of the loop, we are writing fact equal to fact times I, and the update expression is I minus minus. All right. Then, because this is a recursive function, to continue this process, to keep this going, we need to call the function. And we precede this with the return keyword because this function returns an integer. And we write rect factorial. And then we pass the variables in the function. So num, fact, and I. Right? Okay, so we are done with our recursive function. Let's write the main method to check whether this works or not. Yes. Alright. So scanner sc equals new scanner system.in. Okay, this is to take an input and to take inputs, and then we need to create an object of this class, factorial. So we say equal to new factorial, right? Then we need to take integer input. System.out.println. Let's give the user a prompt, enter a number. Enter a number. Int num equals sc.extent. Okay. Now we need to call our factorial function. So our factorial function returns the factorial of a number, and it's int. Therefore, I'm going to store it in a variable called factorial. And call this obj.factorial. Now, num does not have any initialization values because this will be given by the user. So therefore, we pass num as it is. And then for fact and I, we see that fact has an initial value of 1 and I has an initial value of num. So fact1 num. All right, and then very end we print system.out.println. So num plus, this is a sign for factorial, exclamation sign, this factorial. Compile, no syntax errors, let's run this. Let's say 5, so 5 factorial is 120. Let's try for 4, it's 24, it's correct. Let's try for another number, let's say 7, let's try for 4, right? So this method does work. But we can reduce the parameter list of a recursive function. So if you notice carefully, you're going to find that num, the variable num or the parameter num, is never really used inside this function, right? Never really used in any of the computation. Therefore, what we can do is we can get rid of the num to reduce our parameter list, right? So let's get rid of num and let's stop passing it num, all right? Let's compile and let's run this again. If we send 5, see 120 is getting printed, so that's correct. This program is correct. All right. So I hope you have understood the process of converting from the recursive one to an iterative one. And if you don't, go through this video a couple of times, go through the algorithm once, and I hope you will be able to understand. Right. See you in the next one. For now.